Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Hidden Agenda. Tonight we've got Patrick Cherry, who's actually running for alderman in position 5. He's running up against current mayor Jeff Griggs and our current alderman Jimmy White. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys. Let Patrick give you a little bio and background and tell you a little bit about himself.
All right. I'm Patrick Cherry. Been married to my wife Sherry for a little over 40 years. She's been putting up with me a long time. I've been a full-time resident of Henderson County and Lexington, I guess since 1998, I believe is right. My wife is from here originally. I've got family here. Been in and out of here my whole life, visiting family, and always loved this community. When I was a kid, my parents would come up here to visit family, and I'd beg them to move here. I loved it. It always felt like home to me. And in 1998, I was fortunate enough to be able to make it my home permanently, and I wouldn't change a thing. I've loved every minute of living here. I've got 2 kids, Wesley and Katie, and 4 grandkids. Just enjoy life here in Henderson County and Lexington. Enjoy the lakes. Enjoy the park. Just blessed to be a part of this community.
All righty. Well, I guess I'm pulling up the questions. We can get started here and asking you a couple. And the first one we've been asking every time, this was probably the first question was ever brought up to us to ask. Which political party policies do you align with?
Typically Republican. I'm pretty conservative in my thinking. That's not to say I wouldn't vote for a Democrat if the right one came along, but I consider myself a constitutionalist. Believe in the Constitution, and believe that's what makes our country what it is, and that's always going to be first with me is the Constitution over any party.
I can certainly agree with that. All righty. Budget cuts. How are you going to decide the best, what's the best choice when given options to make a budget cut? And will you talk to your constituents before making those recommendations for a cut?
I will. I'll always be open to listening to any ideas that my constituents have. I think the number one thing we can do is just sit down with any budget that we get and go through it line by line and figure out what's necessary and what's not. I've never in my life looked at a budget that didn't have waste in it somewhere, and I think that's going to be critical. That's going to be key to me being in this position and helping the community and getting rid of the waste is just going through every budget line by line.
I understand that. That's what should happen. I mean, if we get down to it, I mean, there's always some places to trim the fat.
Exactly. I also think that I know a lot of times these aldermen will get a budget on a Friday afternoon and be expected to show up to a meeting on Monday night and have a full understanding of what's in the budget, where the money's going, everything about it, and that's not enough time. Something as important as a city budget, we need weeks to sit down and look at it, if not a month or 2. You need time to dig through it and figure out where the money's going, where it's wasted, where there's potential for corruption or waste.
I agreed, and I've had someone explain it to me one time before that when the aldermen when they vote on the first budget, which is the first reading, that then from there they have time to research it. But even when you're making that first, and then you can, and the reason is now you got your month to go in here and do all your research and figure out what it is. No, I mean this is a first reading of the budget. You should be able to go in there and have questions answered.
Exactly.
I mean, and when you don't have ample time to review it and look over it, I mean, if you got to go through and contact each department head and ask questions, you got to contact the city recorder and ask questions. You know, and on top of doing this here, you know, you're trying to do all this here in a weekend's time, and we never know what's going to happen. I mean, life is life. And to see that, you know, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's with everything. I mean, I've seen it in the county and the city. They just
And most
need
of
more
these
time.
aldermen work a job, so Monday there's no opportunity to look at it. It just, I feel like if you had at least a couple of weeks to look over it, you'd have a better understanding of what's going on when you walk in there for that first reading. And like you said, you may have to contact a department head. Say, why is this here? What's this expense for? I just think you need to be able to be more prepared, and there's no way to be prepared as you should be in such a short time.
and you know, to further capitalize on that conversation, in a weekend's time, you're having to go through 60 or 70 pages, and if you guys have ever seen the font, boy, it's like a 9. I mean, you barely can read these things. I mean, you have to literally, you can't print a sheet and read it. You got to expand it on a computer, which makes it even harder to read. And then by the time you expand it, you're scrolling back and forth, and you're trying to keep lines. And I've used a ruler before on the computer screen just so I can see, so I don't get confused.
Right, so
with
you
it.
don't get lost in, yeah.
Just in that, just you alone as an alderman having to do that there is insane. At what point in time frame in a weekend of having this budget could you ever have talked to me as a citizen?
Right.
That's,
And that's another point I wanted to make was every citizen out there, this is your money, it's my money, it's not, this is not something that needs to be taken lightly. They pull this money out of everybody's check every week or get it through sales tax revenue at Walmart or wherever you go, and there's no way in a weekend that I'll be able to get out to my constituents and say, won't you take a look at this, see what you think about it. I found this in here. We definitely need more time to be able to go through it and get it figured out. And I would ask, how long does it take a department head or Cody to put this together? A whole lot longer than a weekend.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we're expected to go over it in a weekend.
yeah, and that's you brought up something. I'm straying a little bit here, but our brother-in-law and I have this conversation quite often when we go up to Ohio to visit. You mentioned that, you know, your taxes are pulled out of your paycheck. We would view taxes a whole lot different if we got all of our money up front, and then we could write a check to pay into the government.
Right.
And we saw just how much was being taken. Our point of view would change.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things that government has, I'm going to tell you right now, they're very good at manipulation.
Oh, they are.
And that's,
I got some more about manipulation I'd like to talk to later on.
all righty. Let's get down up in here. I'm gonna condense some of these here because we've kind of gotten some flow now. City vehicles. We know we've got employees. Heck, I almost question if everybody in the city's got a city vehicle of some kind. But we've got all these city vehicles. It's costing us money. I mean, it is. Every time they go fuel up, that costs us money. Every time they go buy a set of tires, an oil change. And when you got a lot of vehicles, you know, we don't relate to it because, you know, we may have 2 or 3 vehicles sitting in our driveway. But when you're servicing a fleet, that adds up real fast.
Real fast.
But where the question is leading here is, do you think that there's an issue with or an abuse of vehicle use, especially from personal use? You know, people have talked about seeing them after hours at businesses. I think somebody messaged in last week or Tuesday that saw one in the drive-through liquor store. You know, so the questions here are twofold. Do you think there's an abuse there with the city vehicles? And the second thing is, somebody brought up that a lot of these trucks or vehicles that they're using have higher end packages.
I've heard that same thing.
Yeah, as opposed to a work grade. What do you think about that there, and what do you think needs to be
As far
done?
as the abuse, I won't go so far as to say that it's abuse because I don't know for a fact.
Right.
But I will say that nobody needs to be driving a city vehicle home unless they are maybe with the electric company on trouble call or with a utility company on trouble call. The police is a little different deal, you know. I feel like just simply having a cop car in a neighborhood is a crime deterrent. So I'm okay with that. Now, when you start talking about them driving, if we have an officer, I don't know if we do or not, but if we have an officer that lives in the next county or somewhere else, no, absolutely not. They don't need to be driving them home. That's not we don't need to be a crime deterrent somewhere else. We need to be a crime deterrent here.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I do think there are probably quite a few vehicles going home with people that don't need to be, and it is costing us money. It should be, anytime a vehicle goes home with somebody, it should be there should be an immediate need there for that vehicle to be at that house.
Right. Makes sense to me. All righty. Going into the next ones here, we're going to consolidate this one down as well.
Let's back up just a
All right,
second.
go ahead.
I forgot about the packages on the vehicles.
Yeah,
The
we did.
upgraded packages. I can kind of imagine what probably happened there. They were probably looking at vehicles, maybe gonna buy 3 or whatever, and the dealership said, hey, if you'll buy 5 of them, we'll give you this upgraded package and it won't cost you anymore. Well, that sounded great to whoever was making that deal.
Right.
But in reality, they could have done the same thing on a cheaper model and said, hey, we're looking at the tradesman instead of the Laramie.
Right.
And probably bumped up to 5 instead of 3 and gotten an even better deal.
Right.
I won't go so far as to say they were just trying to blow our money. I just think a lot of times people don't think when they're doing things like that. And yeah, that to me, that's potentially quite a bit of money that belonged to the taxpayers, it belonged to you, it's gone.
That's it. And that's it. And you know, and when you start looking at these extra, when you start stepping up in packages, you start adding technology features that's going to be cost more on the repair side of things. There's,
Exactly.
you know, there's some long-term effects down the road that we,
Right.
you know, that can't be
That is true.
overlooked, but can't be to the point where we can just say, oh, we don't have to worry about it. You
Yeah.
know, it
We just don't know what the effects
Right.
are yet.
Yeah, that's it. All righty. Last year in the budget for 2024, Lexington Utilities got a raise. And when it was discussed, the utilities manager and the city recorder told the alderman that Lexington Utilities was good to go, they could handle it, they were in positive.
Right.
They were in the black, so they could afford to give the pay raises. Come around earlier this year, there was a letter that was sent down from a new utilities department. It's a utilities oversight. I don't remember the name. I think it's Tennessee Utilities Commission or something like that. But they sent a letter down to the city stating that you guys are net negative. And main problem there came from the other employee benefits. So when this was brought up, Alderman Tim Rhodes questioned, why did you tell us back last June during the budget cycle that you had money, and you had this letter because it was dated back at that time frame? Why did you tell us this here, and now we're finding out that we were given false information?
Right.
Which, you know, obviously swayed a vote when we get down to the end of the matter, possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
But the question here is, do you think that these department heads need to be reprimanded for giving false information to aldermen? And when Alderman Rhodes asked the question, he had to ask it 3 or 4 times and he never got an answer. So the second part is, do you think that these department heads need to be reprimanded for not providing answers to the aldermen?
My answer to this one's gonna be a little different probably than some of the answers you've had from other people, but I was not there. I was not at that meeting. I wasn't as involved at that time as I am now, and I don't know the specifics of that particular situation. However, if I were an alderman, and a situation like that arose, one of two things happened. Either there was a very serious financial mistake made, or the alderman was just misled so the department could get what they wanted. If I were an alderman and that happened, absolutely they should be reprimanded. I mean, there's no way around it. You can't do something like that and expect to not be reprimanded. Now, again, in this situation, I don't know, maybe the department head now has given an answer and I don't know about it. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that one either.
But nevertheless, I will say this. While a department head would be responsible in a situation like that, I also think the alderman and mayor and city recorder probably have some fault in that, because it would be very, very easy for these aldermen to say to every department head, I want a full, detailed financial from you every quarter. And if the alderman took that financial home and went through it line by line and figured out if the numbers were right, if they all added up at the end of the page, they would have known before this ever came about. So it all goes back to everybody doing what they ought to be doing. My opinion is that if an alderman is really intent on doing his job, his number one goal is to watch out for the taxpayers' money. That's it. I will say one more thing that kind of bothered me a little bit about that is that 7 aldermen and a mayor. To my knowledge, now I'm not 100% about this, 2 aldermen, which you already said Tim was one, 2 aldermen questioned this, and that's it. So we have something really serious that happened here with a lot of money, and 5 aldermen and a mayor didn't ask questions. Didn't go, why did you tell us one thing and now we're here? That's my big concern, is why did the rest of the aldermen and mayor not stand up and say, something's up here? You know, that's their responsibility.
It is. And you want to tell you what, the cost, you're certainly right about it being a lot of money, because that's a recurring expense.
Exactly.
That we're going to feel every single year, and eventually
Hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next few years.
that's it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And to add a little something in there, what you were saying, there's definitely some fault along the way as well, because when I went back and I looked at the audits, guess what? We were net negative. It was in the audit. We've been net negative for a little while.
Yeah.
That's so. I mean, it's not like we didn't have this information.
Right. I figured it was that way. It just nobody stayed on top of it.
Right. That's what it boiled down to. That's anyway. Let's move on to the next thing here. All right. This year, employees got another raise. In the last 4 years, they've had a cumulative total of raises of 23%. Do you know of any other industry or employer that's given those types of raises?
Oh, absolutely not. That's the only way you get a raise like that is if you change jobs, if you get a big promotion, something. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous for raises. It really is. And I mean, do you realize if a man or woman is making $50,000 a year, over that short period of time, he's now making in the low 60s. And that's huge. And I personally, I don't like the way we do raises. I don't like these percentage-based raises across the board.
Well, that goes into my next question.
Okay.
And, you know, and I'll let you go ahead and finish with that there. I'll pop the question to you. Why are percentage raises being promoted and used when it truly only benefits the top earning positions and the guys at the bottom, and the question is here, get shafted in comparison?
Exactly. I have no idea, and I've even asked that question. And the answer that I get every time is, well, that's just the way the government does it. So I actually started doing some research to find out, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe there's some kind of law that says government has to do percentage-based raises across the board. That's not true. That law doesn't exist.
No.
And, you know, the more I dig into it and the more I think about it, not only is it not fair just simply because if you have two men working side by side, one's making 80 and one's making 40, the one making 80 is naturally getting double the raise that the one making 40 is getting. Well, they may be doing the exact same job. Actually, the one making 40, he may be working his rear end off, and the guy making 80 could be slacking. Could be the other way around. We don't know. But when you do a flat across the board raise like that, you know, just like I do, everybody knows, you've all worked with them. You've got guys that get in there and bust it every day and do a good job for the company that they work for or for the government entity that they work for. And then you've got guys that show up and skate through the week doing as little as possible, just as little as they can get by with, just to draw their paycheck. Why does that man doing as little as possible deserve the same raise that that man busting his butt gets? And, you know, any industry I've ever been around, every year you do an evaluation. The head of a department will do an evaluation on every employee. And any raise that you might get, if you get one, is going to be based on that evaluation. And, hey, the man doing the work, give him his money. He earned it.
That's right.
He earned it.
And you're right. Performance-based pay raises are what we should be getting. But I will say this here. It's easy to just say, yeah, let's give them 3% and not have to do any kind of work.
Yeah.
And you know, and you got to think of the workload that's taken off of the department head at that point. Well, I don't have to take and go and watch these guys to see how they're working. You know, and maybe if they watch them, they may find out they got to reprimand some people for not working. You know, it requires effort, and if they put the effort in, my concern is this: if me and you sitting out here working in the department, and I'm out here at the shovel every day, and you're sitting back in the air-conditioned truck, and you get the same raise as me, I don't have any incentive to
No
grab that
incentive.
shovel no more.
Right.
My philosophy is I'll go sit in the truck, and then the job never gets done.
Right. Well, you know, the next thing that I'm going to bring up might be a little touchy. I'm not going to use departments or names or anything else, but this is something that I witnessed with my own eyes. A city employee sleeping in his truck during business hours. This is a recurring thing. It's not like he had a late night one night and just had a bad day or whatever. This is a very common recurring thing that I have seen. Same employee. And like I said, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. I probably, at this point, as far as naming names or departments, I probably will contact his department head at some point and just say, hey, watch out for this.
Yeah.
But that man got a raise, just like everybody else. Think anybody else knows he's sleeping on the job?
Probably not. Unless some of his buddies are doing the same
Yeah,
thing.
unless
and
his
they
buddies are doing the same
and
thing.
they have places that they swap back
I
and forth.
hesitated about bringing that up because I don't want to throw people under the bus or anything, and I guess I didn't. But I'm just making a point that these raises, when you're not doing a merit-based raise, you're wasting money. And we also talk about eliminating waste in these departments to save taxpayers money. There's waste.
Well, you know, I'm going to say, at the end of the day, the biggest waste we probably have is in salaries,
Right.
because we have people sleeping in trucks.
And we've got some people that work for these utility companies and for the city and for the electric that are awesome.
Amen.
Great
Amen.
people that do an amazing job at keeping our power on. And I'm thankful for them every day. Glad I don't have to get out there in the lightning storm trying to fix something. But, you know, and they deserve everything that they get.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are always going to be those slackers.
Yes, they are. And it doesn't matter whatever we are, whatever industry we get into, whatever government agency, you know, it's the same thing. And one thing that, you know, I'll say this here, we have groups will take and support themselves. They create fraternities, if you really get down to it.
Watch out
And
for
they'll
them.
stand up for each other, even if they're doing something wrong.
Right.
They will sit there and stand up for them. And that's the problem. That's why we have these problems, because
Right.
they enable that type of behavior, and, you know,
It
instead
takes
of
a-
calling it out.
It takes a strong one in the bunch to stand up and say, we're not doing right here.
Well, there's not that many alpha dogs out there.
Right.
That's where our problem lies. All right, the next question. How do you view the city's money management in the last 5 years?
Poor. You know, you hear people all over the board with that one. And, you know, it's the alderman's job to watch over your money. Again, I'm going to reiterate, this is your money. And whoever you elect to do this job, that's just number one thing sitting at the head of the table up there is to watch out for your money. I mean, if he's not going to watch out for your money, why is he there?
That's it.
We've been put in a position. Now, let me back up just a second. I will say this: it's not all their fault. We've got a couple of really, really good aldermen. We really do.
Yes, we do.
I mean, awesome people that will stand up when they need to stand up. Unfortunately, they're outvoted a lot of times, most of the time.
4-3. You know what? I have seen that so many times sitting in those meetings. I've just sat there and watched it, and and you can tell whatever the subject's going to be. I mean, I don't even need to flip a coin. I can write down the vote before it ever gets cast, and
You already know.
yeah, 95% of the time I'm correct on it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're right, and that's a problem that we have, and that's one of the things I'm excited about, seeing so many people out here running.
Yeah. Well, you
Seeing
know,
the need for change.
if the way I look at it, if y'all decide you want me in this position to do this job for you, if I don't do a good job, if I don't take care of your money the way I ought to, vote me out. I don't deserve to be there. It's that simple.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's it. And you know, and it goes beyond. It's so and so's. You know, it's their family, or they're a good guy, or yeah. That doesn't matter. What matters is the person who really is the best suited to come in here and represent you. You know, and there's, you know, some people say, well, we need the most experienced people. Some people say we need to vote them all out and start fresh. You know, however you look at it, putting the same thing back in does not always, we can't expect change.
Right.
But at the same point in time frame, we need to look at the ones who have been doing everything that they can to take and represent the people.
Right.
You know, and a conversation I was having today was about some voting records, you know, a couple of years ago, 2 and 3 and 4 years ago. Well, I'm like, well, yeah, I get it. I mean, somebody had a voting record a certain way, and then they realized something. And
Right.
how have they been since that change?
Right.
Well, they've been consistent
You can-
since the change.
Yeah, you can make a mistake along the way as long as you learn from that mistake.
That's it. It's a learning curve.
And, you know, it makes you change your mind, and you realize, hey, I gotta do this different. That wasn't what was best for the people that voted for me.
That's it.
And you know, well, we'll get into that later. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. I'm up here with you. Do you think that the property tax increase and utility rate increases have been excessive the last few years?
I do think they have been more than they should have been. I think we're, for the most part, pretty lucky here. We do have pretty good utilities. Yeah, we have some issues here and there that need to be taken care of. There's always going to be room for improvement. I can't say enough about Lexington Electric. I mean, I've had my issues with them in the past, but I mean, 99% of the time when I have a dealing with them, it turns out positive. You know, most of the utility companies are fine. It's just you've got a few little issues here and there that need to be tweaked. I go back to your question. I really would need to, and I plan to do this at some point. I'm going to call some of the other utility companies in our area to see what their rates are. I would just like to compare our rates to what everybody else is paying. I mean, we may have been way too cheap. I don't know. But I do know that we've had some increases voted on here lately that I didn't agree with, that are going to hit some of the less fortunate in our population here that are really going to hurt
Right.
because of it. You know, they're going to be looking at, do I pay my electric bill or do I go buy me some food?
Groceries, yeah.
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 So,
And nobody should need to live like that.
Right.
It's just, and you know, and I'm gonna add on to that a little bit there. There's metrics that we have. I know it was used in the last county campaign about our poverty levels. And we noticed our poverty level was going down. Well, last year it started going back up. And I have not looked at it recently to see if it's changed, but the last I saw was 18% for Henderson County, which equates to around about 5,600 people. That's a lot of people
it's a lot of people
that is
living
at or
in
below poverty level.
Right.
And I believe it jumped 1.1%. And if we're looking at that there, we're talking, 1% is, that's,
500 people.
yeah, somewhere around there, right around that, yeah, that gained,
Right.
they got pushed over
Right.
into the, they got off that, they're no longer teetering, they're now solidly in that, that poverty level. And that's, when we raise rates, everything increases, that's what causes the issue.
It does, yeah.
You know.
Those are the people that it hurts the
Right,
most.
right. And, and it is what it is, but that's the problem there, but, yeah. I'm gonna move on to the next one here. All right, we're gonna go back in here and add a little bit here, because kind of covering the property tax. Why do you think the mayor asked for a 74-cent tax increase last year, but settled for 17 cents? And based on the value of a penny, 17 cents is somewhere around about $1.5 million short. Yet this year he didn't ask for any property tax increase.
Right. First of all, I think the reason that he didn't ask for anything this year is simply because there's an election going on. Actually, I thought about doing a little research and digging into it and seeing whether or not in the past that they had raised taxes during election years or not, seeing what they were really up to, if this was really a plan or if it was just an accident. I personally have to believe it's by design. I mean, they've been wanting money every year, and then this year's an election year, and we need the money right now, and they didn't ask for it. So it makes sense to me. Having said that, I want to talk about that 74 cents for a minute. And I really think, and I'm included in this, it did the same thing to me. I think we were hoodwinked. I think they threw this 74 cents out there as bait. And when the people bowed up, y'all all got upset about it, did exactly what you're supposed to do, went and pitched a fit. They go, we'll back it down to 17. y'all were probably all just like me. I'm like, we won. We actually won. We showed up and we won. 17 cents is still a huge property tax increase. We got a neighboring community that has had a battle going on for several months now over a 4-cent property tax increase. They settled on 3. And I'm thinking, they were really upset about that. And that got me to digging a little more into this 74 cent and 17 cent. And I'm like, yeah, we were duped. That's all it was. This is probably what they had planned. Now, if we hadn't shown up, if y'all hadn't shown up and pitched a fit, they would have taken that 74 cents and had a party.
Oh, yeah. Oh, heck, yeah.
But,
Well, and I went back through to look at things before I started getting down into these questions, and I looked at the year before that's when we had the property reappraisals, and I believe, if memory serves, they got 15 cents. So last year, which was during an election year, but no, I'm sorry, it was an off of election year.
Off year.
But the year before that, there when it was an election year, and they did ask, and they did increase it. I think 15 cents. That's when the roughly right now. Maybe it was. I think it may have been 16 cents. We want. I believe the state equalized rate when it came back down was around about 88 cents.
Okay.
After our property tax, all the reappraisals.
Right.
And I think the equalized rate was like 87.98. So we'll say 88 cents. But our property tax went to 104. So, yeah, 16 cent property tax increase.
Right.
And then they turned around this year, we went from 104 to 121. So that puts us in at 17 cents.
17 cents.
So, yeah, roughly in the last 2 years, we've had 33 cent in property tax increases.
Right.
And people are in other counties complaining about 3%.
Right.
That's,
Yeah.
I get it. I
It
totally
just
get it.
Blows my mind. I thought about that sitting there going through my notes, kind of preparing for this, and I thought, imagine the gall these aldermen must have to be able to stand up there and try to throw a 74 cent increase on the people. I'm like, I would have been ashamed to even sit up there and say that.
I attended all this meeting last year. When that was popped out there, what blew my mind was the mayor chunked it out there. I'm like, you got to be kidding. We're at 104. I mean, we're talking a 71% property tax, a 71% increase.
Right.
74 cents would have been a 71%. No, but I'd never heard of that before.
I hadn't either.
And then when Alderman Ellis said, well, I'll make the motion to accept the mayor's.
You're like, you didn't even think
70
that would get a motion.
Yeah, I didn't think it would get a motion. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then it got passed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what on earth is happening here? And I'll say this here, kudos to the citizens for paying attention.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big turning point moving forward in how people are paying attention
That's why I'm
to what's
paying
going
attention.
on.
That's exactly why I'm
That's
paying
it.
attention.
I think that's the first time I ever saw you was last year.
No intention of ever doing this. Never wanted to go into politics. It's just, I just don't care for doing something like that. But I love this community. I think we got an awesome town here, and the way it was going, I'm like, I've got to do something. I've just got to do something.
And that's it. I mean, and I think most of the people that we've talked to so far is the same thing. They see the problems and they want to help fix the problems. And I can't stress enough how much the people's voice has really impacted change.
It has.
And I think that I'm gonna tell you, I'm expecting some strong numbers at the polls this time.
Well, I think that 74 cent deal and everybody blowing up is why we've got so many people running this time. I mean, it got so many people involved.
And it's just continued to almost snowball.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say it here. In my opinion, what I see is wrong. I mean, even last week, the city hall parking lot getting paved.
Yeah.
What an absolute waste. You know, tell you what, yes, that costs taxpayers dollars. You know, tell you what, instead of paving that parking lot, I would sooner have seen that tax dollars go out there in front of the post office, in front of Kaywood, and lay down there on the city street.
Yep.
You know, tell you what, because it's still gonna be our tax dollars, it's gonna pave that city street anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, it's all our tax
I
money.
mean, I realize it was just a small parking lot, and it wouldn't have been very much street getting paved, but we got some pretty rough streets that could use just some spots fixed.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and they're paving a parking lot.
Yeah, that just,
Makes no
just,
sense.
yeah, none whatsoever. I got a text message come in, I got a question here, let me see what it is. Yeah, I'll ask this one here. What do you think of the stove at the gas department?
Oh, that's a pretty nice one.
How much was that thing again?
They were, at the time that we looked at it, that we saw it in there in that meeting, they were about 12 grand. I'm sure, now,
And there may have been a government discount
there
on
could
the
have been a
stove. You
government
never know.
discount, and they bought two at one time.
Yeah. Well, I have not found the second one yet.
I've heard it was found, but I don't know. I don't know any firsthand information, but, yeah, that's, that really, really got me. It really did.
Yeah, that was, and just to let you know, last year during the budget discussions, when everything was going, was ramped up and the utilities building was packed, you were there, and I don't think you could get in at the time, could you? You were standing back there in the,
I was standing back in the back, in the hallway.
yeah, there's a,
That's when I spotted the stove. Actually, my wife spotted the stove.
there's a break room back there, and there is a stove in there that's, Patrick looked into while he was waiting there, trying to hear what was going on in the meeting, and researched it and found out it was a $12,000 stove we got sitting back there.
That didn't include the giant vent hood above it.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet that break room probably costs more than some of these smaller houses around here when you get down to it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely could have bought a few police cars, a couple of
Yeah.
police cars, or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
something important.
I got another one here. Let me see here. How do you feel about the city spending thousands of dollars when they're supposed to not have, when they're not supposed to have the money?
I don't know what to say, other than it just boggles the mind to think that they just keep spending money that we don't have. You know, I mean, I guess to say we don't have it at all is not totally truthful. There is a little bit of a rainy day fund and a little bit of a general there that they could pull some money out of. I'm sure there is some money that is not allocated somewhere in the budget, you know, for whatever emergency comes up.
I think that's
But-
actually in the reserve funding is what
Yeah.
the state requires,
They
I
require
think
a
a
certain
10% of operating capital.
Right. I don't understand how they just keep spending money on things when they hadn't even looked into eliminating any waste or anything like that. That was, go ahead with your question.
Yeah.
We'll get
No.
into, I had something else I was gonna say, but I will wait until we get to it. I'm sure you'll have a question about it at some point.
Well, we kind of touched base on it, the roads.
Yeah. Everybody knows the shape of the roads. I mean, it's beyond anything that I've seen in my life here in Lexington. I'm 59 years old, been around here all my life, lived here since '98, and I've never seen it like this.
You travel a lot of you
I
travel a
travel
lot.
all over the country, all the time, and there was a lot of money spent in the last few years, last 4 or 5 years that I just don't quite understand. I don't understand the mentality of some of the people deciding to spend some of the money the way they did. when we have roads crumbling, falling all to pieces. We got school buildings all over the county, which this isn't a city problem, I don't guess, but nevertheless, it is a taxpayer problem, especially if you have children, where they have to go around and set buckets under leaks every time it rains. It just infuriates me, honestly.
Yeah, I've actually had some high schoolers text me directly with videos
Yeah.
of it in lunchrooms. I mean, it's crazy.
But the city is really in
It
financial.
was 1 second here. I had a drop out for just a second there. We should be coming back on now.
Right.
Sorry about that. There, had a glitch, technical difficulties. Somebody must be praying. All righty, we're reconnected again. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, I lost my train of thoughts.
Don't ask me either, man. I've gotten old.
But I don't know. I'll do everything in my power to see to it that I'm only one vote, but I'll do everything in my power to see to it that the money is spent properly. That your money is spent properly. My money is spent properly. It's my tax money as well.
That's it. Yeah, and I'm, you hit the nail on the head quite a few times. This is our money.
It is.
It's like, it's taken from us. We don't have any choice in the matter.
No choice.
They take it from us, and they're supposed to spend it on us. I don't mind them taking it if they're going to spend it on me.
Right.
But,
Do things with it to make your life better.
Right. And this,
That's what it's for.
we got problems around here, and life isn't getting any better.
I know where I was going a while ago. I found out some information last night that we'll talk about down the road sometime about the true financial shape of the town, and it was like mind blowing. And I'm like, if we go in there and elect all good, level-headed, responsible, accountable people, it's still going to be hard working out of this. It's going to take time.
Right. And I know people don't like to hear it, but I mean, the only way to get out of this hole that it's dug is you can't spend your way out of it. There's no way possible to spend your way out of it.
No.
The only way to get out of it is to start making cuts.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're taking in, I think like 11 million, and we're spending 10,750,000. You don't have much money left over there, and we're sitting here. I think Clay Crook had put out. I'd send him the paperwork on it. This was, I believe, from the 23 or the 24 budget audit. We were in that budget. We were a little over 58 million in debt. Now, and we got to remember now. Granted, we paid debt services down some, but at the same point in time, we just took on. I'd have to go back and look. I know it was $10 million cumulative over 2 years. I think it was 4.4 last year and 5.6 this year, or it may be inverse of that there. But we just took on about $5 million in debt again. So that pushes us over the $60 million mark as far as being in debt at this point.
Right.
And that was based on the I can't remember what it was for the Lexington Utilities Department. And I think we're supposed to see a 5-year plan that we've never seen the 5-year plan on.
Right.
Which I keep hearing about these plans and lists, and I ain't seen one.
I supposedly got 3 years of the 5-year plan, but it was not very explanatory. It was very, very vague. Really don't know.
A plan is a plan.
Exactly.
It should have all the information in there.
Absolutely.
Without any question. And if they're cherry picking it, that's a problem.
Yeah.
No pun intended there. Last question I'm going to ask you is, what is your perception of how local elected officials treat the people they represent?
Well, I think the vast majority of them are good people, respectable people that treat everybody else with respect. However, we do have a handful, and I've been on the receiving side of this before, who are just, when they start talking to you, they're arrogant. They try to talk down to you. I don't know. I don't understand how, first of all, you could treat anybody like that, but especially somebody that's a constituent. I'm of a mind, it doesn't make any difference who you are, what your economic status is, where you live, where you work, where you go to church. None of that matters. We're all one vote.
That's it.
Your vote counts just like mine. Mine counts just like the guy down the road here. And we all deserve the same respect.
Agreed.
That's one of the reasons that I actually thought about doing this, was that it really bothered me the way I was talked to in a meeting one time, talked down to. And I'm not one to put up with things like that, not only for myself, but for anybody else.
Right.
And I won't put up with it. When it comes to things like that, somebody being mistreated, I'll fight in a minute. I just, it's not gonna have it.
Yeah.
Not gonna have it.
It ain't right. It just ain't right. All righty, I'm gonna actually turn this over to Patrick, let him talk to you guys and make his sales pitch to you.
Well, this election is not about me. It's not about my two opponents. It's about you. It's about your tax dollars and how it's all spent. If we continue to vote the same way, we're going to get the same results. Something has got to give, or our town is going to be in serious trouble. One thing we need to consider is that although we didn't receive an increase in our property tax this year, next year is not an election year. Nobody's seat will be up for grabs. Nobody will worry if they have to vote for a property tax increase. Right now, we're sitting on a new set of raises. It's going to put us roughly $600,000, $650,000, I believe, in the hole again. We're going to have to pay that money. That's a recurring expense every year, and we don't have it. If we don't do something different, there's going to have to be a tax increase, a property tax increase. The current administration has shown over the last few years that they don't have the ability or the desire to try to cut anything or to eliminate any waste. Every time there's a shortage, the immediate response is, we got to raise taxes. And my thought is, for myself anyway, the well's about dry. And I have a feeling there are a lot of you in the town out here that are the same way. You're already taxed to death. You know what's going to happen. It's not going to be an election year next year. They're going to need the money. And I figure they're probably going to come after it. If I were a gambling man, I'd probably lay money on it. They're coming after us next year with another property tax. I can promise you that I will do everything in my power to keep from raising taxes on anybody. And that's just not just for the immediate future. I'm always going to be like that. I feel like there are places to cut. The only time I would ever even consider, or the only reason any alderman should ever consider a property tax increase, is if there is absolutely no other way. We've got to eliminate the waste. We've got to find money in other places. It's there. Hopefully there's enough there. But I can promise you I'm going to work for you. I'm going to dig through these budgets. I'm going to hold people accountable. I'm going to be transparent with you. And I want you to hold me accountable to the point of voting me out if I don't do what I should do. I will stand up and fight for you. Now, I'm out knocking doors all the time and meeting people and shaking hands. There's no way I can see and meet everybody. I'm asking you now for your vote. In case I don't run into you down the road somewhere, I need your vote. If you don't get out and vote, I have no chance. We have no chance at making anything change. Y'all have a good night, and I appreciate y'all watching.
All righty. Well, thank you for coming on, Patrick. We certainly appreciate it. And
I enjoyed it. I was nervous. I'm not a public speaker, not a politician. This is way out of the norm for me.
well, you know what? Comfort zones ain't always possible. Sometimes you got to take risks. You got to step out. Just kind of like, you make buy your first home, you get married, you have a kid. Those things take you out of your comfort zone.
Had a lot of notes there. Never made it to any of them.
Well, you know what? That's a good thing, though, because you felt comfortable enough talking. Anyway, folks, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to Patrick and what he's got to say.
Thank you.
I'll take and let you know next Tuesday. Let me make sure I'm right here. Next Monday night, the city does have their board meeting. I don't anticipate a large agenda on this here, simply because we are at election time and they're going to be voting. They don't want to have anything controversial that will impact voters. And early voting starts August 22nd, I believe. So I expect the next couple of meetings will be a little bit easy going. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, we've got Chip Clark coming in here. Now, he's running for position 6. He'll be in here with us next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And then next Thursday, which is the 31st, we're going to have a recap of the board meeting from Monday night. And we got a special guest, sitting alderman Tim Rhodes, who is not running for any kind of office whatsoever. It's coming up here and he wants to talk to you guys and kind of share some information with you. So we look forward to having him in here next week. Other than that, you guys have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the next edition of the Hidden Agenda.
Thanks for watching.